Namaste, it's Sahara Rose, and welcome back to the Highest Self podcast, a place where we discuss what makes you your soul's highest evolvement. Have you ever heard of chakras before? I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably have. Chakras are energy centers throughout the body, which I dedicate an entire chapter to in my book, The Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda. And in this episode, I'm going to deep dive into all of the chakras throughout our body and what they each mean. So if you have my book, pull it out. Go to the chakra section. It's at the end. I think it's chapter 21, but just check the book and make sure. And I've highlighted all the chakras, their relationship with the doshas, with the koshas. If you don't know what koshas are, listen to episode 35, all about understanding the layers outside of our body. So now in this episode, we're going to go into our body and learn more. So I'm really excited to share this with you guys, especially from a more traditional Vedic perspective, because a lot of what we hear about is kind of more new age, interpretive, different words thrown around, and we don't really know the roots of the words. So I really like talking about things from an ancient Vedic perspective, so we can then add our own spins to them, whatever we want, but it's good to also know where they came from truly. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It helps balance your chakras, and as always, get in touch with me and all of the amazing Highest Self podcast community on the Mind Body Balancers Facebook group. You can find it in the show notes on highestselfpodcast.com or at iamsahararose.com. And you'll see it right there. You can just search on Facebook, Mind Body Balancers, and that's the perfect place for you to share different things you've been doing to balance your chakras. Let's say your solar plexus out of balance, or your throat, or your third eye, and we'll share with each other different tips and tricks that we've done along the way. And be sure to check out my book, Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda, where I've really gone into depth about all of the chakras from a Vedic perspective, and I think it'll really benefit you if you're interested in learning more about them. So without further ado, enjoy this episode all about the chakras. So Ayurveda is the world's oldest health system. It originated in ancient India 5,000 years ago, and it is the health system which all others are based on. So Chinese medicine, macrobiotics, Western medicine, herbology, all of this comes from Ayurvedic roots. Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga, and the two were always meant to be practiced hand in hand. So yoga is union with Brahma, with universal source. It's a spiritual practice. Whereas Ayurveda is a mental and physical practice of well-being. So if you go to a yoga class and you're going there to get more balanced or more fit or ease your anxiety, it's actually Ayurveda that you're practicing. So I discuss in the book, there are a lot of things that we all do that actually are Ayurvedic. Like, I won't get into it now, but so many things come from Ayurveda. So it's not that foreign or weird of a subject. It's actually something that's super intuitive to us. So central to Ayurveda is the concept that our minds and bodies are interconnected. Whatever shows up physically has a mental root, which on a deeper level has a spiritual root. It's something that's manifesting in your soul. So a disease is really a dis-ease, disharmony between your mind and your body. Ayurveda is a very intuitive science. I mean, it has very scientific things like surgery actually comes from Ayurveda, but a lot of it is very intuitive and feeling what kind of feels off in your body. And you would be surprised by how far that can actually really lead you. So today we are going to discuss all about the chakra system. So you may have heard of they say chakras, but chakras are energy centers that run up and down your spine, and they are related to different areas of your body, but also in your mind. So we're going to discuss what these 7 chakras are, how your physical pain is actually related to your emotional pain, and what it really means to be a soul having a human experience. You know, we hear that like, oh, you're not your physical body or your soul, but like, what does that even mean? You know, for some people, it just sounds like woo-woo talk. And I totally get that. So I hope this podcast episode will help you make sense of that more. So next time you hear the word chakra, I know my brother used to be like, oh, don't be like one of those people who's like, oh, my chakras are all out of balance. And like, I totally am. But it's because it makes sense, and it's actually part of a scientific system, which is Ayurveda. So if you're someone who you're really connected with your body, you kind of feel like things are off, or maybe you've noticed like when you're not speaking your truth, you get like phlegm and congestion issues, you're already on this path, you know, like we are all getting these wavelengths right now, these universal downloads, and we're all receiving the same exact messages. So it is like an amazing time to be alive, and it's time for these practices to come back and take center stage again, because we've seen where separating the mind and body takes us. And it takes us to the world's worst global health epidemic, which is what we are experiencing today. I don't want to go into fear-based things, so I'm not going to get into it, but there are tons of documentaries that do, if you don't believe me. I'm sure you do, though, if you've listened to me this far. So what are the chakras? So the word chakra in Sanskrit means to wheel. So in Ayurveda, this relates to wheels of energy that are throughout our body. So these wheels of energy are moving things, and that's why the chakras are related, because it's not just a stagnant, I just have an issue here, but it's nowhere else in my body. An imbalance in one area of your body will eventually lead to imbalances in another. So for example, like a sore throat that you don't address for a long time might lead to a headache. Well, for chakras, your throat chakra is right next to your third eye chakra. Your third eye chakra is right between your eyebrows. Your throat's at your throat. So do you see how things can move up? Or, you know, let's say your menstrual problems, and then that leads to digestive issues. Hormones and digestion are totally interconnected. And the chakras are, you know, if you touch where your ovaries or your genitals or whatever are, you touch where your belly button is, it's right next to each other. So typically the energies do tend to move up, but it can happen in either way. So chakra is to wheel, and you hear about it in a lot of meditation practices and things like that, because these energy centers run along your spine from the top of your head down to the bottom of your tailbone, and each is related to a particular energetic function. So let's go over what these 7 chakras are and what they do. So the first chakra, which is at the base of your spine, it's like kind of underneath you. Some say it's like where your perineum is. So it's between your anus and your vagina if you're a woman, or just kind of the butt region if you're a man. But it's the root. It's what connects you to earth. So that's called Muladhara. Then you move up, and then you have your sacral chakra, which is called Vadhisthasana. Okay? Probably a little mispronouncing it. Svadhisthasana. Okay, I sound like I have a lisp. But that is your sacral chakra, and it is located right below your belly button. So that's actually where our kind of reproductive organs are. That's where, you know, your ovaries are, or whatever else you have. So that's our sacral chakra. Then we have our Manipura, which is the solar plexus area, and that is right around your digestive system, your belly button, and it's who you are. Then your Anahata chakra, which is your heart chakra, which is right in the middle of your chest, so right next to your heart. But it's right in the middle. It doesn't mean it's on the left just because your heart is there. Then we have the throat chakra, Vishuddha, which is right where your throat is, as well as your thyroid area is all related to that. Then you have your Agna, which is your third eye chakra, which is right in between your 2 eyebrows. And then you have Sahasrara, which is your crown chakra, which is located on the top of your head. So Sahasrara. So yeah, I love that, probably because it sounds like Sahara, but it's located on your crown chakra, which is maybe why I'm so connected with my crown chakra. And that is you receiving downloads from the universe. So these are our 7 chakras. Each chakra is interconnected with an energetic function and can be balanced with colors and crystals and essential oils and natural therapies. There are all sorts of ways you can balance your chakras. I tend to be a person who looks for the most natural and self-reliant thing. I'm not someone who's like, carry all these crystals and this and that. Not that I have a problem with them, especially crystals do come from nature, most of them, the good ones. But I think that our human bodies have everything that we need, but you can use anything that resonates with you. People do color therapy. They'll paint their room a color of the chakra that they're imbalanced in. Whatever resonates with you, but I think that your body, and through mantras and through food and through practices, you can heal your body without spending a penny on buying anything. That's my belief. Okay, so let's start with the Muladhara chakra, the root chakra. So the root, as we mentioned, it's located at the base of your spine, and it's basically the root of your tree. It is related to security, stability, and your most basic survival needs. It's really funny because the Maslow's hierarchy, if you've ever taken a psychology class, the Maslow's hierarchy is this triangle that they've created in modern Western psychology, and they thought it was like the most profound thing ever. And it's like, well, the first thing you need are your basic needs, and then it goes into like your whatever life needs, this, that, and at the very highest is like self-actualization. Well, hello, people. These are the chakras. They've existed for 5,000 years plus. So, I mean, it's great that it's come to the Western world, but it's not. Maslow did not think of it. The chakras were downloaded from, the ancient sages in India downloaded it from no one knows where. They're like, this is just what came through. So I think that everyone is receiving the same downloads. We can put whatever names we want on it. If even chakra doesn't resonate with you, you can call it Maslow's hierarchy or whatever else. They're a little different, but it's the same idea of your basic needs need to be met, and then you're like your needs but not wants, and then like your wants, and then like once you've had everything that you need, you can start being like, well, I actually don't need any of this. But it's like someone who's starving, all they can think about is I need food, I need food, I need food. Probably the last thing they're thinking about is like, oh, I'm going to meditate today. It's really a luxury that we're so blessed that we are able to even think about what is our purpose on this planet, because most people don't have that luxury, frankly. And it's because their root chakras are imbalanced. So when you are not in a safe and stable environment, if you're living in war, your root chakra is going to be uprooted and you will feel the imbalance. So that's why we see a lot of root chakra related issues, a lot of anger and aggression and just fighting with one another. We see this happen in areas where there is a mass root chakra imbalance, war-torn areas. This is happening. Now we can get into like cultures, and cultures are also, some cultures are just more root chakra cultures. Like in Africa, they are very root chakra. They are connected to earth. They are connected with their source. They feel things there. I used to volunteer in Zimbabwe, and trust me, the children at the orphanage where I was volunteering were so wise and so connected with the earth in a way that I could never be, but it's because the earth is what they had and it was their mother. And especially when you don't have a mother, you care for earth the same way you do the woman who birthed you on this planet, because earth birthed all of us. So root chakra. Root chakra is when someone says stand your ground or keep your feet on the ground, it's all related to the root chakra. So it's related to strength, stability, it's primal, it's fight or flight, it's survival, it's family, it's ancestry. So we are all very spiritually connected to our ancestors, and the traumas that they faced are happening to us. They are playing out in our lives until we address them and we break those bonds. I know for me, I had to do deep, deep bond breaking work about my ancestral wounds that I was holding on to, coming from a family of child marriage and female suppression in Iran, in the Middle East, where, I grew up with my grandma telling me I was married at 11 years old and was raped by your grandfather. I grew up hearing that story, and I was always so affected by child marriage and how can this still exist? Knowing that my own grandmother was playing outside one day, playing hopscotch or something, and her dad was doing a business deal, and he signed the business deal, and then the guy's like, oh, thank you so much. By the way, do you have any daughters who are available to get married? He was like, of course. You did this amazing contract with me. Here, pick one of my daughters. Choose whichever one you want to marry. And this man, my grandfather, was 28 years old at this time, and my grandmother was 11. And he was like, oh, I choose that one. He was like, oh, well, she's only 11. She's quite young. And he was like, oh, no, it's okay. I like her. She's the tall one. So she was in a forced child marriage. She said that she was crying hysterically, begging her father not to give her away to a complete stranger. She wanted to continue school and was taken out of school and turned into a child bride. And shortly after became pregnant with my uncle and had another kid, and then a third kid who was my dad, and then a fourth kid who was my uncle. And then, I'm not going to get totally into the story. This is a whole other podcast episode, and she's still alive, and she's 92 years old and thriving, but she has a root chakra imbalance hardcore. She's always in this state of, what if something happens? It's not safe here, even though, this happened to her so long ago, and, her husband died when she was about 27 years old, so she became an extremely young widow. And in Iran, when you're a widow, everything is taken from you, your home, your money, everything. You have no more rights. So she had a very, very tough life, and root chakra imbalances are something that will follow you if you've had just a lot of uprooting and instability, especially in your childhood years. So the pro side of root chakra energy, when our root chakra is balanced and we feel it, we feel communal and we feel grounded. And that's why we see in different parts of the world, they have this strong sense of tribe and community that we are actually lacking in. So that's the beautiful thing about root chakra. It's like we are all in this together. But when it falls out of balance, then you start to kick into the ungroundedness, insecurity, instability. And if you have too much root chakra, then you go into the anger and the competition and just feeling defensive and feeling like you're always having to compete with others for what is yours. So there's two types of imbalances. There's being too low in a specific chakra and being too high. So with the root chakra too low is you have no connection to your root chakra. You're just anxious. You don't even know what it's like. You're really in your head and you're not in your body, which is a lot of people in the West. Think of a nerd, they're not connected to the root chakras at all. In the movies, they punch the nerd in the face and the nerd's like, oh, sorry. And they don't do anything back. They need some root chakra. Hello. Punch the guy back. No, I'm kidding. Eye for an eye makes the world blind. But that's low root chakra energy, to not even stand up for yourself, we can't always just be all holler, peace, we have to also stand up for ourselves. And that is to have enough root chakra that you are secure, you are safe, you are deserving of your circumstances, but at the same time, not too much where you're stomping on everyone's feet and being it's my way or the highway. You want to keep it balanced. So if you have a depleted root chakra, I offer tons of suggestions in the book, but it's all about connecting to earth through the diet, through your practices. And you can say the mantra and the affirmation, I am, or VAM, VAM. And in my book, I have, practices that you can do like earthing, and I even offer different essential oils and crystals you can use and things like that. So check it out. It's in chapter 21. So the second chakra is the sacral chakra. So this is located right below your navel, and it's the source of sensuality, sexuality, but also creativity, because the two go hand in hand. So the word for sacral chakra that I keep butchering, svadhisthana, actually means sweet. So I like to call it like the feeling of butterflies you get in your stomach when like your loved one comes, and it's like this like sweet, romantic, passionate feeling. And that's what this chakra is all about. So it relates to joy and pleasure and whether you are willing to receive it. Because a lot of us are not. And it is related to relationships and movement and emotions, which are also energy and movement, and the arts as well, because, you know, your creative source, ladies and gentlemen, it's your yoni or your lingam. Yoni is the Sanskrit word for vagina, for life force, because she is your powerhouse. And lingam is the word for sacred male part, because that is also something that we should honor. I'll do another episode about Tantra. So the sacral chakra is watery, it's fluid, it's flow. And when you are feeling juicy, your whole life is in a state of flow. And that's what I love about belly dancing, guys. I'm a huge belly dancer. And it's because when you're doing it, you're just like feeling pleasurable, like not with anyone else, just with yourself. You're like, I'm feeling myself. And you're letting these juices flow through you. And you're actually stirring things up that allows the energy to channel up. And before you know it, you start receiving creative downloads from the universe. So if you're like, how come I'm not like sitting in front of the computer and like thinking of amazing thoughts? Well, it's because you got to get the juices flowing. How do you do that? Just to move your sacral chakra, do hip circles. The feminine moves in circles. So anything is hip circle, chest circles, hand circles, neck circles, these all help the feminine move. The masculine is very like rigid and stuff. And that's why if you only practice yoga and no form of creative movement, you're actually increasing your masculine, because yoga is a very masculine practice. In fact, women weren't allowed to practice it until like the mid 1900s. But it's because it's very rigid, it's formulaic. We all have the masculine side. I definitely think everyone should practice yoga. I practice it every day. But also have some sort of feminine movement practice in your life. Doesn't have to be a belly dance class. It can just be you dancing in front of your mirror like you on one. It can be whatever you want, okay? But make sure you got the juices flowing. So what happens when we are depleted in sacral chakra energy? Happens to a lot of us. So it definitely was happening to me when I was a raw vegan. You're just cut off from that part of you. You're like, sex? Rather not. I have emails to reply to. I'd rather eat. You're just like not feeling it anymore. And it's oftentimes related to skipped menstrual periods. If you're not getting your period, your hormones are out of whack. You're not producing progesterone and estrogen, and you're not going through the cycle of ovulation, which is when your body wants to reproduce / when you get horny. If you're not going through that, then obviously you're not going to want to have sex. It's related to increased vata, which is also related to lower back pain, vaginal dryness. All of this is interconnected. So if you're feeling that way, like just kind of like dried up with like life, and you're like, boy, don't touch me, or you're just kind of like over it. You might feel cold physically in your body. You might feel all of the vata things. Then that means your sacral chakra is depleted. Now, what about if you have excess sacral chakra energy? So you're maybe too into sex. You're just like hooking up with everyone on the corner you can see because you just need it. You're doing things you definitely should not be doing. Like I know people who sleep with people they should not be because they're like, oh, well, I had a sexual urge, like married people, like that sort of stuff. And that's not something you want to be doing. And, you know, your sexuality should never be something that controls you, that you do things you know are morally wrong because you have sexual needs. That makes us no different from animals. We have consciousness for a reason, and it's because we are supposed to act out of it. So if you are just hooking up with people because you want to feel needed or just like get an orgasm in or something like that, then that is excess sacral chakra energy. It's also related to binge eating, sugar addiction, fear of commitment, substance abuse, and mood swings. It's all interconnected. So those people who are like hooking up with everyone just because they feel the need to, probably also have the binge eating, fear of commitment. A lot of times substance abuse is interrelated with sexual addiction and mood swings because you don't feel stable in yourself, that you're seeking it from an outside force when no person can complete you. So if you are addicted to an outside source, whether it's sex, a substance, an emotion, you are lacking in connection with your true self, and you're lacking in connection with your sacral chakra. So what can you do if you have a depleted sacral chakra, meaning you don't feel juicy? Well, you can, as I mentioned, dance, move your body, express yourself, write, paint. And what happens if you have too much? Well, you need to definitely address the problem, maybe seek counseling or visit a life coach or a shaman to release that. But also realize that you are not your physical body either, and you have a mind, and you have a consciousness, and you have a soul, and there are repercussions to everything that you do. So is it worth that momentary feeling of satisfaction based off of the things that it's going to do wrong? Really think about that. If you're just doing, living for the next high, whether it's through sex or substance, you need to get back in touch with yourself. So next we have the solar plexus chakra, the third chakra, and that is your powerhouse. So it is who you are, what you're all about. It's your personality, your identity, even your ego. It's all in there. I'm not gonna lie, your ego's in there, but we need ego to survive on this planet. Again, it's about keeping it balanced, keep it 100. So what is part of this solar plexus, which is Manipura in Sanskrit? So it is all about how much self-esteem you have and also how much willpower you have. So I'm someone, I'm very operated by this is like my chakra. Besides, I'm really third eye and crown, but I also really am solar plexus too. So it is about knowing who you are and being proud of that and owning that. So it's right located in your stomach. And if you think about it, when you're like, I am, it's funny how my Instagram name became I Am Sahara Rose. Well, it was really because Sahara Rose was taken. Shucks. So I was like, okay, I don't want to be I was like Sahara _ was all of the variations were seriously taken. So somehow it ended up that I became I Am Sahara Rose. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm living up to it. I am Sahara Rose. And it's like solar plexus activation every single time I say the goddamn name. Feels good, don't it? Guys, I'm just crazy. But it is who you are. It is your heat, and it is related to your digestive fire, your Agni. Your Agni is the fire that burns within you. It burns emotions, it burns energy, it burns food, because we digest everything. We digest memory, we digest cookies, we digest everything. It's all going through a system of transformation and change, turning into who we are. So your digestive organs, liver, pancreas, gallbladder, upper intestines, are all part of this powerhouse area. So, if you've ever heard someone say oh, he has no core, he gets uprooted easily, that's related to their powerhouse chakra. So when you think of solar plexus, I just want you to think of identity, power, energy, action, fieriness, all of that. And I discuss more about it in the book. Ain't gonna give it all away, but I offer ways that you can balance it if it's depleted. So depleted is when you don't have a strong sense of who you are, and you just end up in shitty relationships and life situations and nothing getting done, and you look back on your life and you're like, wow, I did nothing. That's related to solar plexus. And then also, if you have too much, it becomes obsession with power and money, and you go into politics and win presidency and have orange hair. I'm not going to mention any names. So too much solar plexus, you become a narcissist, and you only see the world as your own needs, and you only act in, what serves me best, and you do not want to help anyone else. And you have anger problems and control issues, and basically your name is Donald Trump. I can't not say it anymore. Your name is Donald Trump if you have excess solar plexus energy. And unfortunately, he ain't the only one. By the way, it's related to too much pitta, which relates to orange hair, which just further adds to my point. So I have tips on what you can do for both imbalanced, depleted, and imbalanced, inflated solar plexus energies in my book, chapter 21, Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda. So now let's go to the Anahata chakra. So this is the chakra that a lot of us are really familiar with. A lot of us have heard the word Anahata before. And it's because like back bends and heart openers in yoga are oftentimes called Anahata, or like yoga studios will be like, we're having an Anahata workshop, and it's all about back bending and opening your heart because, you know, the heart wants what it wants. Isn't that right, Selena? So your heart really has its own intelligence, and there's actually a lot of amazing scientific research that's showing that. I was just listening to this thing by the Heart Math Institute, and it's an actual institute that has proven with modern scientific research, which is like, you know, what these people need, but it's proven that the heart has its own intelligence. Like what Ayurveda was saying 5,000 years ago, that we think a lot of times with our heart, they're now proving it with science, and there's so many amazing tests that show that we're actually thinking with our heart. So it's a really cool time to be alive. But our heart, you know, often just, it speaks the truth. Like our mind tells us a lot of bullshit. Like our mind is like, you know, girl, you should not wear that. And it's like, screw you. Like, yeah, I'm wearing that. And then your mind's like, oh, get back together with him. And you're like, your heart's like, no, he broke me. And then your mind is like, oh, like you don't, I don't know. It can go back and forth forever. Mind versus heart, mind versus heart. There's like a really funny cartoon I saw about this. But your mind tells you things based off of previous experiences. It's all it knows. So it will tell you what's going to happen based off of what it's experienced before. So the reason a lot of us aren't living these high vibe lives is because our minds are like, well, you've always been in a corporate job and that's where you're going to be for the rest of your life. So just like, don't bother. You're not one of the chosen ones for a cool life. Like, bullshit. Heart is like, no, I know I have a purpose. So shut up, you stupid mind. I'm going to do what I want. Go away. And the mind's like, oh yeah, I have never seen you come up here. And then your heart's like, well, one day I am, but I don't even want to. Only love. Okay, guys, this is what happens when I'm alone recording a podcast. So your heart is a guiding force. That's why they say follow your heart. And it's located in the center of our chest. It's related to the color green, not red like it is in the Western world. That's like a random color. Red is actually related to the solar plexus chakra, the lower chakra, whereas green is the color of love. So if you ever need some love in your life, just think of the green light. So when you think of heart chakra, of course, you already know it's empathy, it's kindness, it's peace, it's compassion. And if your heart chakra is balanced, you are able to both give and receive love. So there's a lot of people who can just give love, but they can't receive love. And I think that's a huge epidemic with women, especially. It's kapha related, but a lot of women were so used to being nurturers and caring for everyone else. And then, you know, when someone's like, oh, you did an amazing job at this, like, I really look up to you. You're like, no, I'm nothing. Don't compliment me. I suck. You know, and we turn it down, and actually we were fully deserving of that compliment. And, you know, it's just like you never say a compliment you never mean. People mean what they say to you. So take it to heart. So when our heart chakras are balanced, we oftentimes feel overwhelmed with this feeling of love for everything. Like you might be like sitting in your car and like suddenly like the love wave, as I like to call it, will like come through. Like for me, like sometimes I'll be writing and I just like feel these like butterflies and like lovey feeling, and like I'm by myself. Like it's weird, but it's not, because my heart chakra is totally activated and I know I'm on my path. Now, when our heart chakra is blocked, that's when we give up on love. So a lot of times, you know, if we've had a really traumatic heartbreak or something like that, we're like, this love thing is a whole load of bullshit and it's not for me. It doesn't even exist for everyone. Everyone's just lying. Love sucks. And really what that is your heart chakra is just totally blocked, and you've become fearful of opening your heart again because you know how much it hurts. But you know, every heartbreak you go through is a test from the universe to see how wide you can keep open your heart. And if you can keep your heart open wide despite it being torn into a million pieces by a horrible ex who cheated on you or did whatever else, so then you will become deserving of a God-man or goddess who is fully worthy of your heart. So really, your relationships are an exact reflection of where you are in your life. Everyone is in the relationship they think they deserve to be in. So if you find yourself, oh my God, I can't find commitment, look what is within you. What are you not committing to? Are you committing to yourself? Because how can we expect others to commit to us when we don't commit to ourselves? We don't take care of ourselves. We don't listen to ourselves. We don't take ourselves seriously. We don't give ourselves tender love and care. So tell me, how are you going to do this to another person when you don't do this to yourself? Because people are always picking up on your subtle energy, especially members of the opposite direction. So if you, opposite sex. So if you identify as feminine or whatever, you're a female, men are picking up on your self-doubt and self-insecurities, and they're like not vibrating with that, because if you don't love yourself, chances are you're not going to be able to love them. So if you're someone who is, you tend to be clingy and needy in relationships, and you're like, babe, where are you? Babe, it's been 10 minutes. Babe, come over. Chances are you don't love yourself. There is some depletion in the heart chakra. So I go over this more in the book, but tips to balance a depleted heart chakra is just practicing self-care, loving yourself, treating yourself like your God-man who is waiting for you, your goddess who is waiting for you. You have to give yourself that type of love. Otherwise, you will not ever receive it. And then, there's practices you can do, yoga poses, all of that. But really, it comes down to how you feel about yourself. And the affirmation, just I love, is a really good one. Like, you can just look in the mirror, practice mirror work of just like looking into your eyes and be like, hey, I love you. And it might seem a little uncomfortable at the beginning, but like, when's the last time you just looked at yourself and said, I love you? For most of us, it was never. So we're not going to find someone who loves us truly. We might find someone who mimics love, but it won't ever be true love, reciprocating and giving love when we do not love ourselves. So heart chakra, guys. Now the fifth chakra, Vishuddha, the throat chakra, which is another one I'm all about. So the throat chakra is, of course, where your throat is, and it's in charge of communication. So it's not only your vocal cords, but your ability to speak your truth and stand up for yourself. So I mentioned in podcast episode 1, I was like, I've been playing around with this idea of starting a podcast, but I wasn't really sure because I was like, who's going to listen to it? I don't have enough time, blah, blah, blah. And I had this really bad cough, and there was just phlegm, stagnation in my throat, and I never, ever get phlegm. It's like unheard of for me. I was like, what is going on? So I took the mic and I started recording, and lo and behold, as soon as I recorded that first episode, it was gone, and I felt totally better. So that was related to my throat chakra. So your throat chakra, basically, it gets depleted when you are not saying what it is you need to be, that you were put on this planet to say. So if you have a message that you were born with and you're not sharing that message, your throat chakra is going to get blocked. So some of us are natural born communicators. We were meant to express, and that can be through your voice. That can also be through music or through art. So if you are not doing that form of expression that you were meant to do, or at least a form, if you're not sure which one it is, just something, start somewhere, you're going to experience thyroid issues. Thyroid is all throat chakra related, phlegm, sinus infections, coughs, mucus, all of that. So it's amazing how thyroid issues have become such an epidemic, and it's something that is 100% reversible. And it all, whenever someone comes to me, a client, they have hypothyroidism, which is extremely common. They're like, oh, they prescribe me medications. They said I have to be on them for the rest of your life. I'm like, are you speaking your truth? They're like, huh? I'm like, what is your work life like? This? And 99.9999% of the time, it's because they are not they are not expressing themselves in the way that they should be. So if you have a depleted throat chakra, just anything, singing, practicing mantras, affirmations, writing, public speaking. I offer more, different types of suggestions in the book, but you need to make your voice heard. Otherwise, it's literally going to eat you up alive. Now, if you have a strong throat chakra, you are naturally blessed. You're a communicator, you're an orator, and it's your duty to share that message because it's truth you're speaking. It's truth, straight up. Like people, every time I put out a podcast, you're like, it's like you were exactly speaking to me at that moment. Like, did you know what I was going through? And I'm just channeling source. I'm channeling truth. It has nothing to do with me or you. It's what's going on in the wavelength of the world right now. And you're energetically going to listen to this at the time that it resonates with you, because that's just how the universe works. So that's why it's our duty to make our throat chakras heard. Otherwise, we're withholding this from other people. If I allowed my fear of, oh, no one's going to listen to me, blah, 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 from not recording this podcast episode, it would not have plant the seeds of change that it is right now. Like maybe you were someone who had the hypothyroidism and this podcast episode inspired you to look at your life and it went away and you healed yourself through like sound vibration and tones and melodies and other things to balance your throat chakra. Then I know that me sharing my truth has done its job. So we were put on this planet to share. Don't keep that to yourself. So the last one on the physical body right now I'm going to talk about is the Ajna chakra, the third eye chakra. So this is the last one on the physical body because the crown chakra is actually right above us. So this is the one that's the last one that we feel on these little God pods that we have. Don't you love that word God pod? Because it's like an iPod, but you're God. I like it. So your third eye chakra is it's your inner psychic. It is what allows you to use intuition. So if you've ever had a kind of sixth sense about something, like you're thinking about someone and then they call you immediately, or you're imagining a situation and it comes exactly to life just how you imagined it, that's your third eye chakra working. And it is extremely powerful because when you're connected to your intuition, you're able to dodge bullets in your life. You're able to know oh, that doesn't feel right, and not do it. I've been in so many situations that I straight up could have died had I continued. Situations that, for example, I didn't feel comfortable in this car that I was in, and it was a taxi service and I had paid for it, but I just really didn't feel comfortable with the driver. I didn't feel comfortable with the car. I felt like something's gonna happen to the car. So we were literally on the side of the road, and I was just drop me off at this restaurant. I'm gonna find someone else. And my friend that was with me was like, oh my God, no, it's night and we're in Costa Rica. Why would you do that? I was I do not feel like this is going to go well. I don't feel safe in this car. That was just my third eye chakra telling me something was wrong. So when I told him to drop me off, he was kind of mad about it, but then I noticed his car was actually kind of not working. It didn't shut down, but I have full faith that had I continued in that car, we would have gotten into a car accident. And my Ajna chakra, my third eye chakra, could see that this car is not safe. This man is not in a safe condition to drive, and you need to get out of there. And thank the Lord I did. So this intuitive self is, you need to have all of your chakras beneath it balanced in order to get there. So you really have to start from the bottom, make sure you're secure, make sure your juices are flowing, make sure you're stable in who you are, make sure your heart's open, make sure you're speaking your truth. And then when you're fully balanced, whoosh, the third eye just comes to life and your inner wisdom is able to speak to you. Now, even if none of the chakras are working, you still have a third eye chakra. You're still getting downloads from the universe, but the energy is not going to be flowing because there's all of the stagnation. It's all blocked. Whereas when your chakras are all open and activated, you become extremely perceptive and you just carry this innate deep wisdom with you. And, a lot of these third eye people, a lot of people, they have very vivid dreams and you tend to remember them. For me, my dreams are extremely vivid. They're psychic. I can literally predict so many situations based on my dreams. And sometimes they're really weird and out there. But that's all third eye activation going on. So when your third eye is blocked, you wake up and you don't remember a single one of your dreams. So a lot of times with a kapha imbalance, this happens because kapha is so down there. It's so earthy, so stable, so connected to the ground and the earth and the root. The third eye chakra is not open. So then you just don't remember dreams. You just wake up and you're just like a tired mess. And if you make poor life decisions, you can't read people. You can't foresee bad situations. You keep getting into like, oh man, I'm dating another freaking pathological liar. It's like, girl, your third eye chakra is not open. So you also become extremely materialistic. You become addicted to shopping and buying things, and you're just kind of stuck in the material plane. You don't see this whole spiritual world that exists around us, which is actually most of our existence, but you become stuck. You might be in the rat race. You might just be like, living your life for the weekends or for whatever else, and you're not really thinking about your greater significance in this world. So if you aren't feeling that way, you might also experience constant headaches. Like for me, I don't think I've ever really experienced a headache. People always say, oh, I have a headache. I'm like, there's no way. And they need Advils. Advil's the worst thing for you ever. Like, do not rely on any medication, whether it's over-the-counter, prescription, or anything that's freaking made in a pharmaceutical. It's poison. And that headache was not caused by lack of Advil. There's no Advil you were born with and it was taken away from you and you need it back to make your head work. No, it's caused from your third eye being blocked, your thoughts being blocked. Maybe you're not taking care of your body. You could even just be dehydrated, but chances are you're not living up to your highest self, so your head is freaking hurting. So if headaches are showing up for you a lot, rethink, how is my intuition? How is my spiritual practice? Am I meditating? Am I spending time in nature? Am I making decisions based off of my intuition instead of based on rationality? And if not, begin practicing these things. So meditation is really like the easiest way to start because it's just 5 or 10 minutes of your time. I recommend morning and night just to like get your mind into a calm state. And then once you're able to do it for 5 minutes, you can expand to 10 minutes, you can expand to 20 minutes. I'm not someone that's like, you should be meditating 3 hours a day. Like for me, I live my life in meditation, that I don't feel the need to go sit in lotus pose and like have a certain mantra and stuff. Everything I do is meditation. And I think that's the state that we should all be at, that you're living your life in sheer mindfulness, that you don't need to cling on to a practice. And if you don't have your practice, your whole life falls apart. You want to be able to, like a lot of people I see in these developing countries, they don't have like a yoga studio or anything like that, but they're practicing yoga all the time because they're so mindful and they're so self-aware and they're so peaceful and they do everything with intention. And that's what yoga is. And their third eye chakras are popping. So the mantra Om, the universal mantra Om, it consists of all of the sounds, all of the chakras, all of the energies, and it is very awakening for the third eye. So I discuss more different things you can do, which is also related to your pineal gland, which is the part of your brain in charge of consciousness. So this is all interconnected. The more in touch you are with your intuition, the better you are able to express yourself on this earth plane that we were all put in. Now, the last one, which is above our bodies, starts at the top of our heads and goes upwards, is my favorite, Sahasrara chakra, the crown chakra. And this is our source of universal energy. So what it actually means, Sahasrara, is 1,000-petaled lotus. So that's why a lot of the goddesses, you see them sitting on lotuses, and that's what it really represents. It's like they are part of this universal energy. So like there's beautiful imagery of Lakshmi, who's like the goddess of abundance and fertility, and she's sitting on top of a white lotus, and that white lotus is on top of water because lotuses are always floating on water. And the point is, it signifies that you should be rooted in the physical world, as muddy as it might be, to blossom the beautiful flower above. So it's, having one foot on the plane and our heads in the stars. It's a really beautiful analogy. So if you've ever had that moment of just like pure bliss where it's just like you're not thinking about anything. You just feel a true sense of like sheer joy and happiness. And it doesn't, sometimes that could be in the middle of a music festival, but sometimes it's just like you wake up in the morning and you're next to your dog and you're just like, yes, like this is life right now. Like a lot of times with learning, like when I'm learning something new that I'm like absolutely loving what I'm learning, I feel this like sense of just like gratitude, like overcoming my body of like, thank you. And really, the crown chakra is driven by education because you always, the more self-aware you are, the more self-aware you want to become. So you're always going to be driven by this quest of knowledge, of truth, of wanting to know more about who you truly are, good, bad, shadows, light, all of that. So, I mean, chances are if you're listening to this podcast or you're buying my book, your crown chakra has been activated. You already have this quest for knowledge and you want to experience more for life. So it might not be always open all the time, like you're not like walking around like a living monk, but I think already you know that you have a soul underneath this body and underneath this personality, and that you're more than this physical plane, and even your personality is not you. You are an eternal being that has no gender, no personality, no ego, nothing. You are just an energy. So when our 7 chakras underneath them are open, our kundalini, our serpent energy, is finally able to rise up and down our spine, bringing us to enlightenment. So kundalini yoga is like a kind of new practice of yoga, but it's the whole point of it is that serpent energy, moving it up and down your spine, but you don't need to practice kundalini yoga for chakra activation. It's not for everyone. For me, it's not my practice. It's just not I've done it many times, but it's just not my thing. But some people absolutely love it and swear by it. So I recommend giving it a try and see if it works. For me, my kundalini gets moving just through my life, just through living in alignment with my higher purpose. I don't need to do a practice. It's just the experience and the realization of like doing what you were to do in this earth with a purpose. So it might take some specific practices and breath work and stuff to get there, but the point is you get to the point that you don't need any practice. You don't need any crystal. You don't need anything that's like, this is for spray for your crown chakra. No. You already are living in that state of alignment. So when you think of the crown chakra, it's really the highest self. The highest self is the crown chakra. It is big picture thinking. It's self-realization. It's enlightenment. It's universal oneness, knowing that actually on top of, I might be this archetype and you might be that, and there's a lot of differences between us, but we're actually all the exact same. And when we realize this, it's like, wow, we all have the exact same hopes, dreams, and fears. Granted, they might be a little bit different, but on a baseline, we are all the same. And when your crown chakra is open, you stop taking these like everyday things, stresses, this, that. You stop taking it seriously. You realize like everything is created as it was meant to be. Misery was put on this planet for a reason, as was joy. So when this is open, you experience this almost like old soul sense of wisdom of like, things are just going to work out and I don't need to go through life kicking and pushing and screaming and trying to make things work, because the universe will just provide for me. So I've attached more in my book. I have an entire chart based off of balancing the chakras, the koshas, which are the external layers outside of our body, which I go into depth in my book. I'll do another podcast episode about that. So I relate, actually, as I have never seen this before, but I relate the chakras with the koshas. I describe each of their functions, where they're located in the body, what they're associated with in your physiology, what they're like when they're balanced, what they're like when they're imbalanced, the colors they're related to, the elements, so earth, water, fire, air, the dosha, the essential oil, the mantra, the affirmation in English, what else, the natural therapy you should do, and even the crystal. So I have all of that in the book. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever books are sold. The Idiot's Guide to Ayurveda. So I created this chart because it was like basically what I wish I had when I was experiencing so many of these imbalances and issues and I didn't know what was going on. And if I had this chart, I would be able to see the connection to it of like, oh wow, like you're not getting your period for like more than a year now. Like, what is your sacral chakra like? Like, what are some practices you can do to bring it back into relationship? Like, oh, your relationships suck. Like, you're not sexually expressive. You're not doing any of these things. No wonder. So all of these things are interconnected. And once you realize that, it puts control into your own hands. You can become your own healer, your own teacher, your own wisdom keeper, because you really already are. All it takes is knowing the tools so you can tap into that limitless channeled source of eternal bliss that lives inside of you. So I hope this podcast episode was helpful. I know there has been tons of discussion in many areas, many websites all about chakras, and most of them really kind of water it down. And the chakra system is extremely complex. It's extremely multifaceted, and there's a lot more that meets the eye of like wearing a certain colored t-shirt. So I hope this episode showed you that. And sorry about my rambling about my child bride grandma. Just had to share it because it was a root chakra imbalance. But I hope that showed you too that like we all come from ancestral bondage and baggage. Like on my retreats, I always because I lead shamanic ceremonies, so I lead shamanic, tribal, ancestral bondage ceremonies that we like shake our bodies and we go through specific things to help us release all of these blocked wounds and traumas that are not even ours that we're holding on to and replaying in our lives. And once we're able to break those, it stops showing up for us. So I can do another episode just about like all the ancestral baggage that you might be holding on to. And if you ever do come on a workshop with me or retreat with me, I will guide you through it, because, you know, learning about something on an intellectual level is the first way, but you have to embody it for it to work. Because I can know everything in the world, but until I embody it, it's not going to do anything. So don't just listen to this and go on with your life. Listen to this and say, wow, which chakra is blocked and what can I do about it? And take ownership and take responsibility and say, yes, this is my body. Maybe I haven't been treating it the way I should. This is my soul. Maybe I haven't been giving it the opportunities that it needed to, but you know what? I love myself, and that's why I'm going to start today. Namaste, and see you guys on the next episode. Bye.